First thing the manual has you do is turn the transmission upside down. I want to get some of the weight off first. To get the front stuff off, I have to take this nut off. 1 7/16. To do that, I had to make sure this is locked, and that's done when the transmission's in reverse. To do that, here's the linkage to get it in reverse. Move this lever. I wasn't able to do that with the side pan on it, so I took the side pan off, and then I was able to use the lever versus trying to just turn this. While it's still on the transmission, I'm going to try to remove the Taurus plug rather than trying to do it while holding it. And this may have already been loosened. It's got this lock plate here. I need to bend these tabs up. And maybe this will just come off. So I just had to bend this tab up. Fought with it for a while with screwdrivers and picks, and I finally got this mini little pry bar to pry it up. Now it will just thread off. And I'll need to find out if I need to torque that down when I reinstall it, because it certainly wasn't torqued. Next up, it's see if I can slide the driven Taurus off the shaft. The manual says if it doesn't want to come loose, you can whack it with a rubber mallet. Driven Taurus came off with a couple of whacks of the rubber mallet. Not too hard, but not just gentle tapping either. Next up is this snap ring there. I get my snap ring pliers, and then that should allow the driving Taurus to come off. Definitely a more open C than more of a U than other ones I've dealt with. Ended up just getting pushed partway this way, and then I was able to just pry it the rest of the way with a screwdriver. I hope he's still in his original shape. He probably just pushes directly on there. I guess I'll have to find that out. Next up should be the driving Taurus. Should slide right off. Actually, I lied. He's got a snap ring. One more like I'm used to. Take him off, and then the driving Taurus should come off. Now the Taurus cover is ready to just slide off the end. Sprayed down these mounting bolts with PB Blaster, and also scraped away gunk around the ends and sprayed them with PB Blaster to hopefully not break anything when I try to remove them. Got the 4 big ones started by straddling the case, putting my weight on it to keep it in place. All 4 of them started without too much trouble, so hopefully this guy will be coming off. He's going to represent a fair amount of weight, and then hopefully I'll soon be light enough for me to turn over upside down. A few whacks with the rubber mallet, and he came off with no trouble at all. Alright, now's my attempt to turn him over. I'm going to turn it counterclockwise from this direction so I don't mess up stuff over there. Let's see. With the front taken off, I'm able to lift the whole thing, so it shouldn't be too hard to rotate it first onto its side and then slowly continue the rotation on the jack until he's upside down. I was going to raise the jack up and then slide it in, but raising the jack was getting annoying, so I decided to see if I could lift, and I could just barely, without straining myself, lift this part of what's left of the transmission in there. So I'm going to rotate him counterclockwise in the Subaru and then drag him back out onto the jack. One flip to get him there, another flip to get him over, and drag him out. One thing I didn't count on but should have was that there'd be more transmission oil in there coming out of the fill hole. I knew there'd be a little bit, but I didn't think there'd be this much. So fortunately it just leaked on the cardboard. Alright, jack lowered. Moved over here to scrape the gunk from around the pan bolts so I don't break one of those like I did on the 66. I got all the pan bolts to start loosening, and the ones around the outside of the extension housing, except for that one, has got some weird metal there. I don't know if that's someone repaired something or if that's the way it's supposed to be, but I'll have to figure that out before I do any more with that. But I'm going to take the pan off now. The pan's now off and I can see much of the inside of this transmission. The screen looks to be in great shape. Next thing to come out is the screen. I think I have to pry those little tabs away so I can loosen the bolts that hold the pipe in. Dropped one of the bolts in there, but I'll get that out after I remove some of this other stuff that's in the way. So then the screen pipe comes loose. Although the screen appears to be in good shape, it's got a lot of filth on the bottom of it. Well, this thing is legitimate after all. It's the bolt that secures the parking pawl somehow, so I guess they want to make that extra secure by blocking it from turning. So I still have to pry this back to get the bolt out. Came out pretty easily, and then this guy kind of flopped down. He is the parking pawl, so we're supposed to pull him down as far as he'll go. Let's put his spring back. I don't want to lose that. And then this guy here comes off next. The more tapered side goes that way. More tapered side that way. Next out comes the parking brake mounting, whatever it is. These two bolts, bracket, whatever it's called, that comes off. And the parking brake with its two bolts and this two metal gaskets. I think the control valve assembly is supposed to come off next, but I'm not so sure how it's going to work with this. Well, he's the governor, and he turns. I don't think he's bolted to anything other than this, so I think it's going to be remove the 4 mounting bolts for the control valve assembly and take it off. So yep, just remove the bolts, and he slides off the end of the governor. That's what we've got there. Next I'm going to remove the extension housing. We're going to wait on the extension housing. Next thing is to remove the rear servo. Supposed to back off on the adjusting screw by at least 5 turns. So we'll see if that works. It's actually a square head. After fighting with him for a while, decided to loosen this. Once I loosen him, he loosens okay. So that could mean that's the way I was supposed to do it in the first place. And if I'd read farther in the manual for adjustments, for the adjustment sections, I might have figured that out. That's where it is now, so I'm going to back it off the 5 times it said so that I can remove the rear servo. Okay, he's loose now instead of under pressure. So now I can take the rear servo bolts out. I'm a little concerned about this connection here. I may have to loosen the front servo bolt at the same time. To get the rear servo out, I just had to work him. Well, jiggle him a little bit, work him that way to get him disconnected from the pipe there. And then he lifts up pretty easily. I think he just lifts out from there. Next up is the rear pump with the governor attached to it. I think I'm going to have to work this pipe out to get it out. It's these 2 bolts here. Got the bolts out, but the pipe starts to come out there, it doesn't come all the way out, so I'm going to work on removing the front servo. And that should help me be able to get the rear pump out. Yep, removing the front servo bolts helped me work the pipe out. So now I can get the rear pump out and then the front servo. Okay, I worked the rear pump and governor out. Now I need to lift the front servo out. It says to push down the band to make it in the apply position and just kind of work it up. Let's see if that works. Alright. I don't have the main shaft end play tool. The one that I have for the 58 does not work for this, but I might be able to do this just by attaching it here. Get a quick and dirty measurement anyway. And I've set up my apparatus, and right now the gauge is sitting on 92.5. Push him in as far as about 84.5. Pull him out as far as about 95, 96. So I'm going to say we have about a 0.12, 0.13, 0.013 end play, which is within the 0.004 to 0.018 spec. So we shouldn't have to replace these selective washers, which is good. Next up is the pressure regulator, which takes a 1 1/4 inch socket, which I do have. He loosened easily, but he's under spring pressure, so we're supposed to keep some pressure on it as we're loosening it. so bad. Pressure regulator. Alright, I'm a little unsure of my measurement now. I read the manual, I was supposed to be holding this forward, which I wasn't. And I started getting readings generally around 0.24, which would mean I need to go at least one size up in the washer. So to consider that carefully. So it's somewhere in between 0.12 and 0.24. So I have to get a size that'll incorporate both of those. So next up is to remove this snap ring, these two washers, and then I think this will come out. This actually comes out with the front pump, so we got to remove these two screws, and there's supposedly a locating screw, they call it, I thought, that's what says get it out with a snap ring plier, so I'm not sure what that's about right now, so take the bolts out and see. Couldn't find any kind of locating screw, so I just pulled on it and came out. Front pump's out. It comes out separately. Behind him we've got another bronze washer. Get him out somehow. So he's out and in there. All the bolts are taken out of the extension housing, so I think it should just slide off the output shaft. I have a catch pan underneath because a fair amount of oil will come out. I had to whack it a couple times with a rubber mallet and then the housing came off. To remove these, we'll have to hold the drum stationary. The way to do that is to stick a hammer handle through here and cause it to apply the rear band with one hand while loosening the others with the other. Alright, once the 6 bolts were removed, this whole thing came out together, leaving just like this. Next, got to bend these tabs and take these 2 bolts out, the center bearing, 5/8. With those guys now loose, I think I can get the band off. Rear band. This lifts up from there, so let's see what happens next. Main shaft slides out the rear with his bronze washer there. Might be more. Yeah, rear band easily slid off that way and up and out. It might just be a matter of sliding this back and lifting it all out. Not 100% sure of that though. The front band is still anchored, so that won't work unless I can figure out a way to do that. If I disengage this, or remove this snap ring here, I might be able to get the front and rear units separated from each other, and then it should be easy to remove from there. That did the trick. Removing that snap ring allowed me to pull the rear unit off and up and out. Now I'm hoping I can just slide the front unit back some and pull it out too. Yep, that did it. Just pull out the front band. See, that's lock washer that I lost earlier, so everything that's lost has been found. He went with one of the parking brake mounting bolts, I believe.